everybody. Welcome again to apologetics and evangelism training. And so we're going now at lesson 3 of our apologetics and evangelism training. So if you're following along in your packet, we're going to be at page 2. And so let's get right in. So I'm going to the bottom, and I'm going to imagine there is no heaven. And I want to read about John, and what he says is, envision a utopia that didn't need the idea of heaven or God. But what if there was no afterlife? Even worse, what if there was no God? Would it really change anything? So we're asking the question that if God didn't exist, would that really change anything going on in this world, in our lives? And that's an important question for everyone to ask, especially believers. So now, at page 3, think about it like this. If God isn't real, then you and me and every single one of your friends, your family members, and the world we live in is basically an accident. We're basically what happens when you throw stuff, time, and chance into a mix. There's no reason that we're even alive. So there's no reason of being here if God doesn't exist. Who cares if you had 2,000 Facebook friends? Who cares if you have the most popular kid in school? If you landed a great job, or if you had the coolest car or the biggest house? This can really get you depressed. If there really isn't a God, you'll just be sitting around waiting to die. So there's no purpose of life. There's no purpose on even the afterlife. All right, that's what we're getting at. So now we're going to go to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? And our sister last week had played a great, there was a guy explaining this. So in the beginning explains time. God created the heavens, that's space. And then God created the earth, right? And that's what we're in, right? That's the matter. So you're getting it all right there on Genesis 1:1. How God created, you got time, you got space, you got matter, all mixed in one. All right, I'm going to go to the next page. So we're going to be on the top of page 5. Is God real? That's a great question to ask people that do not know the Lord, don't think God exists, or that's a great question to ask anybody. Why ask this question? Number 1, you would have to fill this in. It's a good question. It's a good question. That's what we start off with. It's a question that people have. So it's a question that everyone's asking if God is real, if God exists, especially too with all the chaos in the world, with evil in the world. That's a valid question people ask. The way people answer this question affects the person's answer to this question. What is the meaning of life? So believing in God would affect someone in how they live out their lives, for sure. Because think about it this way. If God is real and He created everything, He created us, now He's also monitoring us. You see, what we do has importance, has value. B, you would have to fill this in. If God is not real, life has no real meaning. If He's not real, life has no meaning. If there's no God, you and me, and everything is a result of matter, time, and chance. If there is no God, at the end of your life, you won't exist, and nothing you did in life really matters. So if there is no God, everything we're doing here, who cares if you treat somebody kind, with respect? Who cares if someone's killing someone? Who cares? There is really no care if there is no God, because He would be the final judge. Also, again, either we're living for Him or not. Also, eternity, right, would be in His hands, and if He's not existing, then eternity, there is no eternity. We're just dead. Helping someone think through this can help them move closer to a belief in God. Number 2, you would have to fill this in. There's a good answer. A, there are only 2 possibilities. Either God exists or God does not exist. It's either one or the other. There are good reasons to believe that God is real. C, this one you would have to fill in if you have your packet. If God is real, life has real meaning. We aren't just accidents of time, matter, and chance. This world is not all there is. If God is real, there's more to this life. And now we're going to go to the next page. So page 6. There are 3 arguments for the existence of God. And number 1, let's take a look at 3 key arguments based on A, the existence of the universe, B, the existence of design in the universe, C, the existence of objective moral values. And we're going to talk about each one of these and break these down. Altogether, these arguments help build a good case for the existence of God. 6. An argument, this is towards the middle bottom of your page 6. An argument based on the existence of the universe, the big idea. God is the best explanation for why the universe exists. So, for example, to say that the universe came from nothing, to say that we just came, that the world and people just came out of nothing, really has no value, really has no real good explanation, right? Because we think about it this way, everything we see around us came from something, right? So even our t-shirt, think about your shoes. Not that God created it, but it took people to sit down, come up with a design, and then execute it, make it happen, right? There's not been one time, not even one case, where a tsunami or a hurricane or tornado goes through a junkyard or an explosion in a junkyard where it creates anything, right? So there's no chance, no chance of anything coming out of chaos or just out of nothing. However, now the question is that you're going to have, if God exists, who created God? So if you guys don't know the answer to that, and really it goes down to this. If God is the one who created, right, time, space, and matter, he created, the universe, if he created earth, if he created us, so then that means he's outside of time. God is not bound by time, right? So he's the one that creates time. He's greater than time, right? Meaning God is eternal, meaning he's always existed. So God also, he doesn't have a fleshly form like us. So he's a spirit. So this shows that he's, he doesn't need food and water and things like that. So he's always existed. Now, him being eternal, outside of time, he's able to tell us the future. And so I think one of the best ways that I process that with is this. Imagine, the movie theaters, right? They have these scenes, right? You got the film that's rolling and rolling. Imagine if you were able to, in the future of the movie, you could interject certain parts that you wanted. Or if you already seen the whole movie, you already know the whole thing, right? So God and time and our time and space right now, he has the ability, being outside of time, he knows the future. So this is why he reveals in the Old Testament Bible, details about Jesus. Details about Jesus where he would be born of a virgin. One of the disciples would betray him. Jesus would die for our sins. He would be pierced. There's certain details that are portrayed in the Old Testament, and they're revealed to the prophets. Prophets are people who speak on behalf of God, and so that's how that's able to happen. So let's keep that in mind. Now, let me see here. A. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. And hold on, I want to make sure. Yep, all right, I see it. All right. So think about it like this. An example of something that began to exist is us. So if I didn't exist during the time when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, right? None of us did. We didn't begin to exist in our mother's womb, right? We began to exist in our mother's womb, It almost goes without saying that whatever begins to exist has a cause. If something got made, someone obviously made it, right? So, things get made, again, there's not one example that we could see that it just happened out of a chance or a coincidence, right? So that would lead us more proof and evidence to a creator, right? So God creating us. Now B, which I think will be, page 7. The universe began to exist. Evidence for the Big Bang shows the universe is not eternal, but had a beginning. So the Big Bang, well, people would try to say, well, listen, there was like an explosion, and all of a sudden, boom, that's how we existed. That's how people came together. That's how people exist. But the Big Bang, again, so the thing would be without God is, okay, who created that explosion? Where did the explosion come from? Even if that did happen, you see? Where without God, it doesn't answer, that answer is not sufficient. So with God creating and God speaking, right, things into existence would be more suffice. And then God also, we got to keep in mind, we're dealing with, if God is God, which would be superior and higher than all of us, we're dealing with a being that, again, we said he's spaceless, timeless. He's the one that created space, time, matter. We're dealing with a being that has the ability and have power to create things out of nothing, which we haven't seen anybody around us like that. We need materials. For example, a T-shirt, without the T-shirt, you can't put a design on the shirt. You need the shirt to do it. So God would have the ability to just speak it, if it was a shirt. But even more complicated is that God has the ability or power to speak things into existence, and they actually happen, demonstrating true power. That's incredible. So, now these parts you would have to write in. In 1929, an astronomer named Edwin discovered that the universe is expanding. I don't, actually, I'm sorry, Andrew. You're going to take this out. I didn't like that example for that one, actually. I remember last time. All right, so now I'm going to go to the page 7, number 3. Okay. And these parts you would have to write in. Now, imagine the universe, including time, space, and all matter, exploding into existence from a single point, which that's what happens. Space, time, matter, again, Genesis 1:1, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? So right there is the starting point of how God made creation. This means that the universe was created out of nothing. It seems to line up well with the Christian, what we already believe. And so when you read Genesis 1:1, which we're not going to do because we already did it, John 1:3, and Hebrews 11:3. I'm going to have somebody read John 1:3 and somebody read Hebrews 11:3, and then you can come up to the mic right there. So John 1:3 first, and then someone else would read Hebrews 11:3.
All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made.
Amen. All things were made by him. Without him, nothing's made. That's it. Without him, and that's God. That's our creator. All right? Hebrews 11:3.
By faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command, that what we now see did not come from anything that can be seen.
Amen. So, whatever begins to exist has a cause. And if the universe began to exist, we know that. So now C, so we know that the universe has a cause. Somebody who caused it to happen. And that would be God. God is the best explanation for that. There's got to be a first cause that started it all. Now, this illustration is really nice. So picture this. So imagine that you're at a bookstore and you see a long series of books on a shelf. And I like to think about it as a movie. So there's certain movies where you see, I can't think of a particular movie at the top of my head, but there's sometimes you see these like huge line. Like if you look down, it looks like the books never end. The shelves are all like linked together, and it keeps running all the way down. So imagine you seeing a bookshelf like that that you just look down any way you're looking, and it's like the books keep going all the way down, and there is no end. All right, so imagine an endless bookshelf or a combination of bookshelves together where you're seeing each book, stacked up against each other, right? So no matter how many books there is or are, there has to be a first book in the series. Meaning, no matter how long, right, that bookshelf would be on books stacked against each other, there still has to be one book, right, in the beginning point of wherever that point is, either if it's on the left side or the right side. Now imagine these books are like minutes of a day, and they stretch back all the way to the beginning of the universe. So imagine there's a bookshelf that stretches all the way down to the beginning of the universe, okay? There still has to be one first book on the shelf. The point is, just like this, there's got to be a first event in the chain. Meaning, for the thousands of years of life on earth, right, that we know of, there has to be a starting point, right, where everything started to exist. And the first event has to be a first cause. Meaning, God would have had to make the decision, I'm going to start life now. I'm going to start time. I'm going to start space, matter, life. I'm going to do it right now. And so he makes that decision, and he does that at one point. Now I'm going to go to the next page. We're going to go to page 8. Now, page 8, on the top there, it is the bookshelf example, and I just went over that. And I'm not going to do the next one in the classroom. So now we're actually going to go to page 9. So the top of page 9 is where we're going to be. So these parts, if you have your notes, you would fill in. The first cause has to be uncaused, timeless, and not a physical kind of thing. So the first cause has to be an uncaused, right? That explains God. Nothing created God. Remember what I said. The best explanation for God is that he's always existed. He's eternal. He's timeless. He's not bound by time, and that's how he's eternal. He's not a physical kind, meaning he's a spirit, right? So he doesn't need all the things that we need to survive as far as food and water and things like that. So that best describes or evidence towards an eternal God existing. All right, I'm going to go on my page. Okay. 10. Okay. So again, at the top of page 9, the next part helps us figure out if the cause of the universe is personal or not. If the universe was caused, the cause let me start that part again. If the universe was caused, the cause has got to be either an impersonable thing or a personable being. If an impersonable thing, like eternal conditions, we would have an eternal effect. And so now the next illustration that you would have to write in is if water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, imagine if it was always that temperature for all eternity. Meaning, imagine water at the state of just being frozen all eternity, okay? Even at the beginning, all the way through. It's just like that. There would never be any water. H2O would only exist as ice for all eternity. If the conditions are eternal, the effect would be eternal. So to say that, like, for example, if everything was eternal, the world, the universe, all that, it would just stay flatline. How would it be able to, the thing is, how would it be able to change? That's the point he's trying to drive at. But we already know the universe isn't eternal. So meaning the universe has a starting point. It's not that it just always existed. There's a starting point to the universe. It makes more sense to imagine a personable being, an unmovable mover, who freely chooses to create the universe. And that's what we go with Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God, He created the heavens. He created the earth, okay? Now, B, just ask yourself, what makes more sense? That a personable being created the universe, or that everything just popped up into existence totally uncaused out of nowhere? So at one hand, you'll say, man, God created everything, or man, we just came out of nothing, And so we really got to get the person we're talking to, especially atheists, to understand the real fairy tale, really, seriously. And I've talked to this because there's been the debates that I've had with certain people. But as far as atheism, like some of them have said, you believe in fairy tales, you believe in, magic tricks and this and that. Like that God just made things out of nothing. And I look at them and smile and laugh. And I say, man, you believe that the person that created everything was nobody. That we just came out of nowhere. That sounds even more crazy. That sounds like even more of a bigger fairy tale. So, but yeah, something to be mindful about. All right, now let's go to page 10. Argument based on design seen in the universe. Big idea, number 1. God is the best explanation for things that look designed in the world. Now, Dr. Mikel gives an example of a camping ground and the red woods or drive through the mountains. You eventually get the sense that all this beauty isn't an accident. So imagine a beautiful, a beautiful park or where there's trees, there's nature. It just can't be an accident, Imagine a park that's untampered, by men or by people. That's God's creation. Someone much larger than me put these things there. Number 2, it almost goes without saying that things that are designed imply the existence of a designer. Number 4, there's a whole science dedicated to figuring out if something was an accident or if it was designed. Then now we're going to go into, actually this part is the number 2 on the theory. The theory of intelligent design holds that certain features of the universe and the living things are best explained by an intelligent cause, not an indirect or undirected process such as natural selection. And this example I'm not going to go over, so I'm going to go down to 3. We find some awesome examples of intelligent design in the universe. What are some examples of these things you see in nature that look like they were designed? And so what we did was, and you guys could think about this, what are some things that you've seen that okay, these, like the star or the sun, these examples that we see around us that explain that there is a creator, that there is a design, right? And so a few of those would be the sun, would be the sky, would be the stars. These things, these beauties, that we see would indicate that there is a creator, that there is a design. Also, too, that, again, we're the perfect distance from the sun so that we don't freeze or melt, and things like that. So there will show, that we have a designer, someone that designed it. Actually, that was it. I ran through it all.